in risk management kind of a space where we may have to simulate the data based on certain parameters. It's like a reverse generation of the data, right? Probably from the data, finding out the parameters like average, standard deviation is one aspect. Probably the reversal from the standard deviation and the mean, generating the original data is what is the process that is involved with your simulation kind of a process. Now, how do you generate it? There are various methods. There is a historical simulation, there is a Monte Carlo simulation. There are different methods in which you can generate the data or you can do the calculation. So Monte Carlo is one aspect where we talk about in terms of understanding the underlying distribution or the shape of the data, and based on the shape trying to generate the values, right? So when we look at this Monte Carlo, especially in case of risk management or in case of finance, we use it in areas like portfolio management. We use it very heavily in calculation of value at risk, which is one of the base for risk management. We also use it for option pricing strategies, determining the option price. There are so many methods to find out the option price, but one such method is again using the simulation itself. But okay, from an exam standpoint, we are slightly relieved here. For the reason, these are primarily done through systems. So from a pen and paper perspective, it's much difficult to perform these kind of simulations. So whatever that could be asked from an exam standpoint is the concept that drives this process of simulation rather than the actual values itself, actual calculations itself. Now, how do we look at this? See, the first thing is, let's say my intention is to predict the price for the next 10 days for whatever reason. Probably I want to find out if I am investing 1000 today, what is the chance that I can lose more than 50 rupees after 10 days, right? For various reasons. Today, in this particular stock, let's say Dr. Reddy's, I want to invest 1000 rupees or 10,000 bucks. Now, I want to know what is the probability that after 10 days, my loss would be more than some 100 bucks from that standpoint. Or let's say I have some options, derivatives expiring on Dr. Reddy's after 10 days. In 10 days, there are options that are expiring. So if I want to purchase that option today, how much premium I should pay for it? These kind of scenarios can come out much better if I can do the prediction of the stock prices for the next 10 days. Right? If I can do the prediction of the stock price for the next 10 days. Now, on what basis I can do a prediction of the stock price? For that, I am simulating a price path. What could be the price for the next 10 days? Based on some of the patterns in the last couple of days or last few months or something, based on the patterns in the last few months, I would be generating a price path for the next 10 days. Now, we cannot give one single path because we cannot give an accuracy to the prediction. So, we will come out with multiple paths. And this multiple paths, when they are generated using a particular kind of a concept and a distribution, there is a name that is associated for each of them. So, The one such kind of a distribution that I can associate is what I call as a geometric Brownian motion. It's a very important aspect in terms of the stock price or any price prediction kind of a model. We assume that the prices will follow what is called as a geometric Brownian motion. And the interesting aspect of geometric Brownian motion is something like this. The change in price, DST, is nothing but generally the word small d is used for a change. This is the calculus usage of this. So what it says is the change in the stock price, DST, a small change in the stock price, it can be modeled using two components. There is an average change, right? There is a trend. There is a trend part which is nothing but the average, and there is some fluctuation part. Now probably just to showcase that scenario for you, let's say if I have been observing the last 1 month prices, 1 year prices of Dr. Reddy's, right? If I just do a simple plot of these with the dates, if I'm doing a simple plot, what we are saying, this is a kind of a plot that is coming up. On this graph, let's say if I'm trying to draw one line, a trend line kind of stuff, if I'm simply trying to draw, now you see there is some uppish movement that is being seen through this line. What it is saying, the price for each of the periods, when I have to predict the price for the next few periods, there is some constant growth part that is there, which is like a trend, and some random part around that trend. Right? This line, if we see here, this line is a kind of a continuously growing kind of a path. And the blue ones, which are slightly above in some cases, slightly below in some cases, they are signifying the random part. Right? So if I have to model a change from today to tomorrow, what this GBM tells me is the change is because of two parts. Because there is, from today to tomorrow, the straight line also goes slightly up. So there is a constant drift. The word associated with that constant growth is it called as drift. There is a constant drift along with a random part. So if I have to predict the tomorrow's price, we are talking about these two aspects. The constant drift that is coming up and a random component around that stock price is what is coming out. Now that is what this model is telling. There is an average. Mu t is nothing but the average of the stock price. There is some growth. There is some change around that average line, along with some component which is random, which is revolving around that the price based on the variance that is associated with it. If the variance is high, if the fluctuation in the stock price is high, even the random part could be higher. If the variance is lower, even the random part could be lower. So that kind, if at all you see any entity that is following such kind of a pattern, completely growing up or going down or even flatter, more not in terms of flatter, but generally for slightly going up or slightly going down kind of scenarios in the long run. But within that, some kind of patterns are there, some kind of randomness is there. For all those kind of entities, we can think of using a geometric Brownian motion for the modeling of them. So that's where he says you can use them generally for stock prices and exchange rates, because both of them you see some kind of a long-term pattern in those kind of scenarios. But when we look at interest rates, we see a kind of mean reverting nature in them. Today, if the interest rates are up, tomorrow they have to come down, right? And once they have come down, probably they may go even more down. So they actually fluctuate around a particular value, but they will not keep going up and up and up forever. Whereas the exchange rates or probably the stock prices or these kind of stuff, if you assume that they keep going in one direction, they show some kind of a trend always. In those cases, you can use the geometric Brownian motion to model them, because geometric Brownian motion takes these two components for describing a change. There is a constant change which keeps going up or down. There is a constant part which is what is associated with time, right? As for the next 5 days, there is some constant growth. So constant part which is more dependent on time, and there is a random part which is more dependent on the variance. And in the calculus world, dz, z is a normal random variable. Dz is treated as a random variable. Wherever you use the word dz in a calculus standpoint, or probably not calculus, it's called stochastic calculus. In a stochastic calculus scenario, wherever we see dt, it means change with respect to time. When we see dz, it's a random part, right? So in this, if you